Oslo, Norway. And first of all, thank you for having me here. And thank you for coming in and listening. And second of all, my best wishes to all of you in these extraordinary days. This is very difficult for most people, and we are extremely fortunate and lucky here in Norway, where things are luckily under control somewhat. So my best wishes to all of you in these extraordinary times as we now start on this presentation about transcending Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'll just now share my screen again and start this presentation. So this presentation will cover quickly a bit about who I am, so you have an idea why you should listen to me. Then I'll talk a bit about where we are today, 1st of May 2020, in a very, very special time in world history, Earth history. I will cover a bit about data integrity. Data freedom. Do we have freedom of choice? And debate a bit about demand. Is demand for sale? We'll talk a bit about the Homo digitalis and how we are transcending into transhumans, digital humans, sort of. Is that easy? Is it problematic? It's happening much faster now. Here we are doing this digital dance today. I'll also drink some coffee during the time because this is going to be an intense 30 minutes or 25 thereabouts. Do we need a new value compass? What's happening to our values? And if so, what should it look like? And how do we implement such a sustainable change globally? What is happening globally? And then I'll try to summarize and some advice. So first of all, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have several exits. I've seen a fair share of failure and some success. I work with deep tech, difficult things, AI, 5G, distributed networks, fintech, sensors, platforms. Yeah, if it's complex, it's something I like to dig into. So I do speak technology quite well. I have a technology education background. I speak business and I speak finance. I have been working with complex equity-based incentives, accounting, valuation, disclosure, and design for small companies up to Fortune 40 companies. And do today a bit of investment banking, M&A facilitation type, bridging trust between cultures and capital and technology, cross-border. And I also do a fair bit of advisory, mentoring, interim management, or as board of director or chairman. So calling to you from Oslo. I have been a submariner for many years. I've been CEO for many years, and but now most of all, I'm talking to you with some life experience. So my first question: wake up, people! Do we have data integrity today? Now, throughout some of my career, I had a bit of fair taste of this. And I have some questions to you. How many apps do you think you have on your phone today? Any idea?
Many, I don't know, 20, 50.
There you go.
Depends, but I think in average around probably 30, 50 apps people have.
Excellent.
I'm also on around 40 apps on the phone at least.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I was actually kind of guessing right, around 50.
Yeah.
So that's good. And thank you for being interactive. That's cool. Yeah, 35 and now around 40 is the average. But the average that you actually have is around 70 if you really count them. That's the actually average when you really count them. But you didn't multiply with pi. The problem is, on my phone, and you can check on your phone, and you can go on lookout.com. I don't own anything, shares or anything. This is not a commercial, but my phone has 541 apps at this moment, even though only 70 are visible. And to the right here, you can see a bit about what those apps are doing: microphone and location and storage, etc. That's the real world that I live in, and that's highly problematic. So we are becoming more and more digital, and 7.78 billion people on the planet as of a few days ago, and we have a growing digital population, as you can see. And the number of smartphones is exploding, and we are actually already slowly becoming digital. So as we do this, this is not something you should just jump into because you use maybe Siri, Cortana, Alexa, Google, Bixby, something like that. And the problem is machines can see a lot of patterns. We can't. We have an old brain. Kahneman, if you read about him, and his from famous book, Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow, we are not able to recognize all the patterns that a machine can do at the same time. And therefore, they can influence us. They can actually manipulate us. I'm not saying they are doing so, and believe me, as a submarine officer and having worked with a lot of detailed in-deep privacy stuff, I seem to be impervious to becoming paranoid, but that doesn't mean I don't think about these issues. Rather the contrary. I will actually talk a bit about that. So can you trust their motives of Alexa and Cortana, etc.? So because you see, the business problem, the real problem is their business models. And the business models of today are malignant, and they're in conflict, because when you have big data, you can aggregate knowledge. And when you have knowledge, you can actually understand what you want, what demand is. And then you can start influence demand, you can sell demand, you can create demand. So if you have a look at the world population, 56% are now digital with smartphones. And 90% of Facebook's revenue is marketing. Can you please put on mute, or whoever is on when you're not talking, please?
It's Camille.
And
Can you put on mute your microphone?
Sorry?
I was just telling to Camille to put on mute her microphone. Yeah, she did it. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I did it. So 90% of Facebook's revenue is marketing, and more than 84% of Alphabet's revenue is marketing. And that's driving them. I'm not saying the founders are evil, but the business models are not so easy to change. And it's driven by quarterly revenue, and that comes into conflict with privacy, because they're trying to figure out what you want so they can sell you more. That's how they earn their money. So increased competition for data collection is actually in direct conflict with privacy. And why is that difficult? Because privacy is important. That's why it's difficult. So, this is the evolution, a bit roughly spoken. You agree, you accept, you consent, you obey, you click yes, and then you bend, and then maybe you even bend over. A bit flippantly, but unfortunately not too far from today's reality. Can you all see the screen, yes?
Yeah.
The slides?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So the point is, AI, your digital helper. We're all going to need digital helpers in order to stay, on top of a very complex and increasingly complex digital life. That's what these helpers are for. But a digital butler, it has to be taught to like you and appreciate you and respect you and be loyal to you. And you need to know who the master is. It has to be you, not a company, not a business making money on your data. So it's about integrity, integrity of who you are when you are starting to store yourself many places or many applications. And then you need to verify the information. And information and virtual reality, artificial reality, mixed reality, real news, fake news, what's virtual, what's true, what's false. These are now blending. And, you know, just for making it real, the C-19 issue, just recently a reporter in Washington Post announced that the virus came from a lab, not from the market in Wuhan. And then we used to be able to instinctively trust the Washington Post, but now we're not so sure anymore. And we're talking about the Washington Post. We're not talking about an obvious sided paper, but we're still thinking, is it true? Is it false? We don't know. We need to verify. So you remember in Pokemon Go in the streets, you know, people walking around with their Pokemon Go, but just when we now get our glass or our visors with the augmented reality, think about augmented reality Grand Theft Auto in the streets or at the mall. People shooting virtual shots at virtual monsters or people in the streets. People are going to lose their minds because reality and virtual reality, augmented, mixed reality is it's gonna blend. This is happening. So you're going to need a totem, as it's called, and if you need an explanation for what a totem is to see whether you are dreaming, you should watch the film Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio. Great film, and it will get you some thinking. So Homo Deus, Homo Digitalis, slowly but surely we're going there. Great books, by the way, you should read them. So where do you want to store you is going to be the question. Do you want to store yourself on Google, on iStore? Where do you want to store you, the part of you that is digital, which is today probably around 3 gigabytes of information related to you, not your pictures, but your profile. So you need to decentralize what you can these days and only centralize what you must. This is also what nature is doing. And that's a lot of what decentralization technology, blockchain is all about. So another problem, black swans. When the dam bursts, just like we're sitting here today on this conference call, one of those black swans happened. What if a big tech company with 1 billion accounts has a black swan event and a massive data breach happens? Massive data breach. There's low probability for this. There we go. I muted her. Low probability, but enormous consequence if it happens. And again, you can read about fat tails and black swan events, but I think we're all experiencing that right now. So it's becoming also much more real. And I'm sorry to bring an exponential graph today, but just look at this graph, and I put it on the picture of Mount Everest. And I'm sure you picked up that last year, not this year, because no one's climbing this year. It's actually right now in May, which is the best season, but this is May last year. And a lot of people died trying to climb this mountain as they were waiting in a queue. This is the queue where they were dying. And if there's a queue up there on Mount Everest, which is maybe, you know, I can understand you set a goal and all of that, and I'm not going to criticize or anything, but we're just getting overcrowded on this planet. Look at the graph and look at our population, and that graph looks a bit scarily similar to some of the other graphs we all have been staring at lately. It's something to consider as we now wake up. And that's what I'm going to talk about the next 10-15 minutes. Wake up. Because consumers, they're dreaming, matrix, blue pill, red pill. Consumers are lazy. It's what can I do with the problem? What can I do with climate change? What can I do with privacy? It's so tiring to deal with these difficult problems and deep dive into deep tech, or others have to solve it, and politicians should solve it, and we live our lives in bubbles. Consumerism, consumers make you sleep a bit, is my point. We get lazy. And now we see what happens when all of a sudden consumers stops. What happens? Everything falls apart. We are creating another virus now, the economic virus. And it's coming because of everything based on consumerism. And that's not so easy. So do you remember this pyramid, Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Self-actualization, self-fulfillment, and the uppermost level, what you can be, you must be. Yeah, that's a good goal. But Coltco Rivera and Jonah Complex, they played with this model for a bit, and they said, well, there's fulfillment, there's justice, there's beauty, there's truth, there's becognition, and you can read more about that, and you can get this presentation and contact me, you'll get it, and we can talk about it. But the fear of failure, and I see that a lot in founders, I see a lot of that in entrepreneurs, I see a lot of that in investments. The fear of success, the fear of change, the fear of change, wow, is the orientation. That's holding us back. And I've been, as a naval officer, I've been in a lot of situations where most people haven't. And I've been in a couple of business crises, and risk and safety orientation is relative to your experience and what you have seen and what you know. What you don't know, you don't know. What you haven't seen, what you haven't seen, and what you don't know, what you haven't experienced, you haven't experienced. So not letting go-itis is what I call it, because we are sitting on top of our Maslow hierarchy, and narcissism is spreading. See me, see me, see me. Look at all the digital presence. People have an enormous need to talk about themselves, to be seen, be heard, be recognized. And we are finding it difficult in our consumerism to let go and to think about something more important than ourselves. And this is where I hope that this talk is going to help you perhaps open your minds a bit, because I like to talk, and I hope people will start focusing on what I call the Earth Positive Value Compass. And this is something I've been playing with in my mind, and also as I've been working with a lot of wonderful people around the planet in various industries and various technologies. Because revolutions, as we are now evolving, and the crisis we're seeing right now is an accelerator. We're actually right now in an acceleration of evolution, just like any war, any crisis before. That's when we leap forward. So they're fast, they're risky, uncertain outcomes. Evolution is slower, more deliberate. But if you think Earth time, and 13.8 billion years ago, the universe probably started. And 500 million years ago, we had some sort of life on Earth, and 200,000 years ago, we had. Please, can someone mute? I know someone is typing, and I'm not able to manage all of the channels.
Probably just you can mute anyone who left, because probably people don't hear. So just mute anyone who left with no mute.
Okay, I'm not sure where I do that. Not wasting time. So, anyways, what I'm trying to say is, I believe Earth is suffering from our abuse. I think we're all getting that. And the question is, are we the virus? We humans, are we the virus? Maybe. But we're now changing into digital humans, and we're doing this at a super fast pace. If you look at how human activity, and back to the slide I showed earlier, how human activity creates climate issues, creates a lot of things that are painful for Earth. And thinking about that, how do we get people to wake up? So I'm seeing this pyramid, and I'm going to explain a bit more. To the right, you see KKK, and yes, that is the Ku Klux Klan. To the right, they are normally to the right, and NZ, that's actually the Nazis. They are to the right. You have the haters, you have the alt-rights to the right of you, and to the left of you, you have the lovers, you have the anarchists, you have the revolutionary. They're also very angry people, and this polarization that we're seeing across the globe, sorry, I don't like it. It's very bad for evolution. It's pulling us apart instead of getting us back together. And you can say this about a lot of things where polarization, where it's making us angry. Most people, they just wanted to work. They just wanted, middle-class people, middle lives, normal lives. They just wanted to work. And we're seeing a lot of things we don't like. How do we change that behavior? And in what direction do we change it? Religion is fading. I'm sorry, but it is. Politics of today are, generating polarization and contempt towards politicians. It used to be an honorable thing to serve office as a politician, and now not so much anymore. People are seeking individual power, and it becomes more and more obvious. We can't give everyone drugs, so how do we get people to work together? Concerted action. How do we get people to change together?
What kind of person do we have?
I'm saying we need to change our focus from a narcissistic focus to an earth positive focus. And what's more important than me? Obviously, my family, my kids, my friends, their families, my people, their friends and families, other people's and their friends and families, humans in general, and of course, animals, plants, ocean, and air, of course, and then, of course, Earth. And I'm sorry, Elon Musk, but Mars is cool, and I'd like to go there sometime. I can die on Mars. That'd be fun, but it's not ready. Planet A is here, and Plan A must be Planet A. Planet B is not ready.
Imitating God is
And therefore, the Earth positive focus. I'm gonna get to why that is important.
Love, intimacy, and sensuality. How to have it all. Eugenia O. Liberty from Bali.
Sorry,
all the people from Bali are awesome.
Can you please mute? Thank you. So the C-19 crisis is an opportunity, because for the first time since World War I, World War II, we humans are on a global scale now given the gift. Either you like it or not, it's a tough lesson, but we are now giving a gift to recalibrate our value compasses. And I've faced crisis many times, believe me, and balance of life and understanding your priorities. I think everyone are now experiencing a very sound recheck. And we should think, what is our governance models okay? Are they failing? When you watch the numbers of these terrible graphs every day, I'm sure you do, like I do, logarithmic or etc. Waking up every day and seeing how did it go yesterday in the US or in Brazil or wherever else you care about, or in Norway or Sweden or whatever. It's just seemed to me that quality leadership gives less deaths and dysfunctional leadership gives more deaths. Think about that for a moment. And we see that when consume stops, we all lose our jobs, or a lot of us do. And it's clearly telling us that consumerism only is a very fragile model, and it's not very sustainable. We have to rethink that. So Earth positive focus, in my view, it's not about self-transcendence, but it's mass transcendence at the same time. How do you get everyone to start working in an Earth positive direction at the same time? We need common focus, common goal, we need common benefit. How do we do that? We are mutating into Homo digitalis, and we need user-owned data and privacy in order to retain individuality, to retain independence, to retain humanity and our freedoms. Yes, but an open source, and we need to share, and we need to have transparency, not obscurity, obfuscation. But most of all, we need to change the money. And the point is, we need to nudge people, to nudge the consumers who are maybe not reading all these books or thinking too much or don't have chance. They're too occupied with getting food on the table and, you know, feeding the kids and whatever they're doing. We need to help them make Earth positive choices with their money. And that's why we have to change the money in order to actually small, smart incentives to help consumers move in a more Earth positive way, incentivize people to think and act more Earth positive in everything they do. That means increased decentralization. It means, yeah, well, you see the cities, right? You see a lot of cities around the world, they seem to have their act together because it's easier to manage a city than to manage a whole country, yet a whole continent. So pay forward, yes. And let's see, now I'm running out of time, so I'll just remind you at the end of this, there's an article and you can look at that, but we're all ships at sea here. We're sailing on the same ocean, and that ocean is called life. I've sailed underwater, on water, and I even used to fly a bit as a hobby, but not anymore because it's not so, well, the current situation, but also there's a climate issue to it, etc. So, but you know, if you can help, if you have been given the gift of ability, you also have an obligation to help. At sea, this is what we call the fine spirit of the seas. And there's an incident about Tampa, which I think you should read, which is essentially is that a Norwegian captain back in the days saw some refugees sailing off the coast of Australia, and he decided to pick them up. And that created a political incident, and everyone said, why did you do that? We didn't want to have these refugees to us, and now it's a big political problem. And he said, well, they were at sea, lost at sea. I had to help them. You should read that story, and it should give you an idea of what I'm talking about. This is about compassion. This is about Earth positive compass in mind, and thinking that we are actually now given a chance to rethink how we live our lives. That was really the end of it. The article. Well, this is a presentation I will share, and you'll get the recordings. The article I wrote some time back, you can find on my LinkedIn. You can share it, like it, comment, contact me, and I hope this was a little waker upper for you. A bit maybe incoherent. It's a bit difficult without the contact with the audience. And I think I will just ask you for having a great day. Any questions at the end? Sorry? Okay. Any questions at the end? You can contact me. And I wish you all the very best day. Wash hands, stay safe, and thank you for having me. Thank you for listening.